Thank you for tuning in to Andronetalks Radio, gathering as one in our sovereign truth from a galactic perspective, exploring our world with new ideas, knowledge, and a promise of a better future. Galactic discussions for galactic-minded people. Andronetalks.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Andronetalks News. And so we have, as usual, so many different topics to discuss, and there's many things happening on the planet and a lot of things that have been coming up in the astral for me. And so this is a combination of course, current news and events, discoveries, all sorts of technology information, what have you. And then also, imagine, insights in things that I see are connecting, and using my my insight, interdimensional experience to share with you how I see these things coming together. So without further delay, I'm going to get right into the first article because we have a few articles to cover here. This is from the RT Question More News. Saudi Arabia says it is no longer an oil-producing country. Then it goes on to say, when Saudi Arabia's energy minister, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, announced that Saudi Arabia was no longer an oil-producing country, he likely didn't mean literally. Saudi Arabia is no longer an oil country, it's an energy-producing country. The energy minister told S&P Global Platts this week that Saudi Arabia has high green ambitions that include gas production, renewables, and hydrogen. I urge the world to accept this as a reality. We are going to be winners of all these activities. Saudi Arabia will surely benefit from the green transition while the Exxons, Chevrons, and Shells of the world are busy doing climate activists' bidding in the boardroom and courtroom. NOCs, particularly in various OPEC nations, are all too eager to take advantage of what will surely be increased oil prices. The world's largest oil company launches a debut sale of dollar-denominated Islamic bonds. That's another article that's related to it. Already, Saudi Arabia has raised its official selling price for the month of July in Asia. But that doesn't stop Saudi Arabia from pursuing its green ambitions. The Saudi Green Initiative, while funding those green ambitions through oil sales, Saudi plans to generate 50% of its energy from renewables by 2030. And that's an interesting year. People keep bringing this up. It's a pivotal year for everyone. And for those that are already part of the plan, they keep bringing up the year 2030. So it's something to discuss in another show. And anyhow, in part to reduce its dependence on oil, and 2017 renewables made up about 2% of the overall energy share in Saudi Arabia, but that doesn't mean Saudi Arabia is planning on producing any fewer barrels of oil. It doesn't mean that Saudi Arabia is planning on halting funding for all new oil and gas projects, as the recent IEA bombshell report has suggested. The world must reach net zero by 2050. Saudi Arabia has long maintained that oil will remain a dominant energy source for decades. So there you have it. There's a plan. Saudi Arabia's energy minister said the IEA's net zero pathway spelled out in the most recent report was like a sequel to La La Land. In fact, several oil-producing and oil-consuming nations have dismissed the report. Saudi Arabia's oil revenues, which will fund any green aspirations the country may undertake, have dwindled over the last year and a half, and the state-run oil giant Aramco had to hold bond sales just to pay its hefty dividend to the state. Nevertheless, the world's largest exporter of crude, claiming it is no longer an oil-producing country, is noteworthy indeed. Interesting article, because how does the world run? It runs on fuel. And not many people are set up in these smart cities that they were talking about for years and did nothing about, where people didn't really have to go anywhere. They could just jump on a bike and everybody's self-contained and working around some type of industry or work or whatever, what have you. And so they're still dictating how this is going to happen. Of course, the car industry, all these other industries that are relying, and even household fuels. How many homes are fueled by oil, and that is also another major issue. We should have been weaned off of this so long ago. I don't know why this has happened, and then of course monopolizing once again, as they stated. And while the Exxons and Chevrons and Shells of the world are busy doing climate activist bidding, so that they're all hung up on trying to appease something regarding the new Green Deal here, but that. A lot of this stuff could have been remedied long ago, and even still, their efforts to shift things, going to electric vehicles, and very, very elite groups funding that typically goes to these electrical cars, like the Tesla vehicle and so forth. When they could have come up with something else related to free energy. So just going roundabout as they continue to find other sources where we're relying on them. I don't want to go any further with this. So you can see frustrating and the arrogance, of course, but never to ignore these type of articles because they think they're important, and see who the players are always. Here's something else. Germany and Belgium floods, enormous pressure on dam near Cologne at risk of rupturing as a flood death reaches 168. This came out on the 17th, July 2021. It's yesterday. A very recent article. And so if any of you have seen some of the footage, it's pretty devastating. Let's see if I can show. This is a house swept along a river, Germany. Homes are being destroyed, businesses being destroyed. Footage is near Frankfurt. And there it is. That's quite a bit of water, isn't it? I don't know. It seems like, even we've had heavy rain around the area that I live in, and consistent rain, more so than usual in the summer. There's a lot of tampering with weather, and a lot of people are feeling it. Europeans are feeling it at this present time. That's from the Sky News. Here's an article. Curiosity rover discovers that evidence of a past life on Mars may have been erased. Surprising discovery doesn't make it any less likely that scientists will find life in the red planet. So they're still trying to break it to us about what's going on Mars. And here is showing that the ancient life may have been scrubbed from parts of Mars as a new NASA study has found. The rover made surprising discovery while investigating clay-rich sedimentary rocks around its landing site in Gale Crater, a former lake that was made when an asteroid struck a red planet roughly 3.6 billion years ago. Clay is a good signpost towards the evidence of life because it's usually created when rocky minerals weather away and rot after contact with water. A key ingredient of life is also an excellent material for storing microbial fossils. And let's see, and then the Curiosity took 2 samples of ancient mudstone, sedimentary rock, and containing clay from patches of dried out lake bed, and that dated around the same time, around 3.5 billion years ago. So there's there's been this activity. I'll have this article here if you want to read further, but I like to cover any type of articles that go over Mars and discuss what's happening there and what they're willing to talk to us about. This is from the Fox News. Players flee Nationals Park after gunshots ring out during the game. Police in D.C. confirmed that 3 people were struck by gunfire outside the stadium during a Nationals-Padres game. So here's some, looks like some footage of people leaving the stadium. And this is a baseball game. For those of you that don't know, the MLB is baseball. And so the game erupted with chaos after gunshots rang out, causing players and fans to flee from safety. Some crazy going on in the Nationals Park. Boston Globe writer Ben Volin tweeted, "Players just sprinted off the field and fans running from the stands." It's something is happening with people that are going out and trying to enjoy life after this severe lockdown and, oppression, illnesses, fear. And so if they try to relax or enjoy being around an event or something family oriented where, they're afraid to leave the house because then they're going to, die. There's always something. And so this is furthering the issue, and this is the powers that are oppressing us. Here's another example of that. Flight from hell. Passengers land in Stockton 17 hours after taking off from Las Vegas. Stockton CBS 13 for passengers in Allegiant Airlines Flight 161. An hour-long flight turned into a 17-hour journey. It was absolutely horrible, said Jade Watts, who was flying from Vegas to Stockton. So this is a 1-hour flight. The flight was scheduled to arrive in Stockton Metropolitan Airport on Monday night at 9:30. They got in on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Here's what happened. The pilot comes on and says the control tower is closed, said Watts. The pilot couldn't get a hold of anybody on the ground in Stockton, and they can't land without a weather report, she said. So the flight headed back to Las Vegas. He comes back on again, says there's a thunderstorm in Vegas and zero visibility, said Watts. And what's worse? They were concerned about gas, so we had to go to the closest airport where we were going to freaking land, she said. Roughly 175 passengers were dropped off at LAX, which is the Los Angeles airport, eventually allowed to get off the plane. We had to go into a holding room, said Watts. To make matters worse, the passengers weren't holding room. Or to make matters worse, there's no restrooms in this holding room, she said. And finally, the flight was rescheduled for the Tuesday. The passengers were given $250 ticket vouchers and left to fend for themselves. We had to find transportation and our own hotel room, and there were people sleeping in the airport, she said. According to the Allegiant Airlines, a visibility sensor that is part of the airport's weather reporting system in OK's planes to land went out, and the Stockton control tower was closed, forcing the pilot to keep the plane in the air. You never hear of a control tower being closed. I just didn't understand why the area is not manned by an actual person, said Watts. So this is it's interesting for a few different reasons. One is that there is no one manning the airport while the pilot is trying to land. And even though he knows he's low on gas and that he could crash, he still has to stay in the air. And there's no one there to help him clear. And saying that the weather or visibility isn't right. And they have no other plan for him. So, and that's what they were being told. Imagine if we had a power outage, what would they do? Why is it that they can't supply a physical body to man the airport? The other thing is here again, it's harassing people, making them suffer and wish that they didn't travel, wish that they didn't go anywhere. And, and I say this is from the astral. This is definitely one of those things creating further trauma. I know that I've used quite a few articles. This is the next topic, of course. I know I used quite a few articles that I get some information from Wikipedia, and I know a lot of people are like, well, Wikipedia is not, the perfect source for information. No, it's very convenient and has a leaning towards a specific view, but I usually do cross-reference as much as I can to gather information. But here's something interesting from Blaze Media. Wikipedia co-founder says the site is biased against conservatives. The word for it is propaganda. So Wikipedia is reportedly the fifth most popular website in the world with 6.1 billion monthly visitors. Many people click on the site to get quick and reliable information on just about any topic. However, the co-founder of Wikipedia has issued a warning that the online encyclopedia has a bias and can't always be trusted to provide the truth. Larry Sanger, co-founder of Wikipedia, along with Jimmy Wales on January 15, 2001, Sanger said Wikipedia originally offered neutral information on topics without obvious bias, but he said that changed, especially over the last 5 years or so. Sanger claims that things changed when Wikipedia became a household name. Sounds very familiar, like all of the social medias as well started off as a neutral platform where people could just interact with one another, and at some point it hit a tipping point where others started to monitor it and seeing all the activity and conversations and so forth. And same thing with Wikipedia and people adding content and information out there onto the platform, because people are able to do that. And suddenly it reaches some point at the tipping point, and then someone seems to take it over. So that's something else for people to look at. I don't know how that happened, but anyhow, or it's probably always been there, and just they don't waste their time on things that are not large enough or are not going to become powerful. Or maybe they're the ones that actually take it over and make it very grand and large and corporate. So anyhow, because there is a lot of influence, Wikipedia is known now by everyone to have a lot of influence on the world. Sanger said in the interview on the Lockdown TV show, if only one version of the facts is allowed, then that gives a huge incentive to wealthy and powerful people to seize controls of things like Wikipedia in order to shore up their power. And they do that. So there's a very big, nasty, complex game being played behind the scenes to make the articles say that what somebody wants them to say. And the Wikipedia co-founder said. Sanger said Wikipedia is pretty reliably establishment in its viewpoint, which is an ironic considering its origins from a couple of the libertarians who, at least in the beginning, were really tolerant and open to anti-establishment views being canvassed in the article. Can you trust it to always give you the truth? Well, it depends on what you think the truth is, Sanger told host Freddie Sayers. The word for it is propaganda, Sanger said. Sanger gave an example of political bias on Wikipedia. The Biden article has very little by the way of concerns that the Republicans have had about him. So if you want to have anything remotely resembling the Republican point of view about Biden, you're not going to get it from the article. Sanger explained the article about President Joe Biden is extremely long, but there is only a short paragraph about the Ukraine scandal in Hunter Biden's overseas dealings. What little can be found is extremely biased and reads like a defense counsel's brief. Sanger claims that the Internet Encyclopedia. Sanger, who left Wikipedia in 2002, said the site is biased against conservatives. You can't cite the Daily Mail at all. You can't cite Fox News on political issues either. It's banned, he said. So what does that mean? It means that if a controversy does not appear in the mainstream center left media, then it is not going to appear in Wikipedia. And there it is. If you look at articles that Wikipedia has, you just see that they are simply mouthing the view of the World Economic Council or World Economic Forum. And so here we go. Here's the names. And the World Health Organization, the CDC, and various other establishment mouthpieces like Fauci, they take their cues from these global enforcements of a certain point of view, which is amazing to see, amazing to a libertarian or a liberty-loving conservative, Sanger said. Sanger gave his opinion in the increase of power and influence by the big tech. We trust outlets like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube with our data and allowed them essentially to take over the media world, he said. What we trusted them, which was our liberty and our privacy, that basically that they weren't going to shut us down, but they stabbed us in the back essentially. There's a lot of truth to that, isn't there? And there's more to this article, but there's just a few more comments. Wikipedia is badly biased, in which it shows a glaring difference between the Wikipedia entry for former President Barack Obama and former President Donald Trump. He also claims that Wikipedia is pretty egregious instances of bias in its article about Jesus Christ. Last month, Sanger wrote in an article titled Wikipedia is more one-sided than ever, where he claims that Wikipedia has a bias in its coverage of major stories, such as Trump's impeachments, Biden's scandals, Antifa, Black Lives Matter riots, and alleged election irregularities. You can watch the entire Larry Sanger interview below, and there it is. Here's another interesting article from CNN Business. Amazon adds voices of Shaq and Melissa McCarthy to Alexa. And then it was interesting that they're using celebrities now for Alexa because people maybe might feel like they know these celebrities. It feels almost like a friend. They'll probably be more open to them, feeling like they're actually communicating with them. And there's a fascination of people and celebrities. Who knows? I guess they have Samuel L. Jackson as well. And with the voice technology, the sky's the limit of what they're going to do now. Here's something on TikTok, and there's been a lot of activities and things going on in Cuba. I'm just going to share this. I don't feel that there should be any problem, but I'm going to share this, what this man says.
All right, let's talk about this topic here too. Another update. Yesterday, I mean, it's already 12 now, the day before, right? The day everything started. In the morning, Cubans wake up with the news that they didn't have no money in the bank because the government took out all the money from everybody in Cuba and they steal the money that they make working, or the money that most of the time the people from Florida send over there, because a lot of family members send the money over there to help them, to be up for them to be available to survive, right? So what happened is when they went to check in the car, there was no money. The money was gone. So the government took out all the money from them and they end up broke. We're talking about no money, but on top of that, no food, no free speech.
So that was on TikTok. I don't have any proof that that happened, but I thought it was quite interesting that, it would be quite a horrible situation for people. And it is limited on the information that we get from Cuba and some nations that are very locked up, and you can't really find out. I know that some people are trying to, had another article that relates to the Cubans that were trying to leave, and Floridians were going out there on boats and picking them up. And I heard that there were some protests. Here's a high altitude balloon that takes off for Puerto Rico from a project loon site in Winnemucca. That was in 2017, but it's an old article. But FCC, the U.S. government can use high altitude balloons to provide internet to Cubans. And I guess this has been going on. Maybe it's enabled them to communicate. But we'll have that article there for you to read. I thought this was interesting. It's not the same topic exactly, but it does bring up the word Havana. It's connected to Cuba. The Havana syndrome, like mystery illnesses, affects Vienna, U.S. Diplomats. And this article is looking at the date here. So, yeah, it's just 1 day ago, but I'm not exactly sure. But here's the article. The U.S. government is investigating a series of health incidences in Austrian capital Vienna involving its diplomats and other administration staff. More than 20 officials have reported symptoms similar to Havana syndrome, a mystery brain illness, since President Joe Biden took office in January. The syndrome is unexplained. The U.S. scientists say it is most probably caused by directed microwave radiation. It was first found in Cuba in 2016-2017. U.S. and Canadian diplomats in Havana complained of symptoms ranging from dizziness, loss of balance, hearing loss, anxiety, to something they described as cognitive fog. The U.S. accused Cuba of carrying out sonic attacks, which is strongly denied, and the incident led to increased tension between the two nations. In 2019, the U.S. academic study found brain abnormalities in the diplomats who had fallen ill, but Cuba dismissed the report. And then it said the Vienna cases first came in to light in New York Magazine on Friday, and were later confirmed by the U.S. State Department, which said it was vigorously investigating. Reuters quoted Austrian foreign minister statement saying it was working with the U.S. authorities on jointly getting to the bottom of this. Vienna has long been a center for diplomatic activity, and he had a reputation as a hotspot for espionage, particularly during the Cold War. countries like the U.S. have a large diplomatic presence there, and the city is currently hosting indirect talks between Iran and the U.S. over attempts to resurrect the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Cases of the condition have been reported elsewhere in the world, but the U.S. officials say the numbers in Vienna are greater than in any other city apart from Havana. In June, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced a wide-ranging review of the causes of the illness. I thought this was interesting, and, of course, the espionage, the Cold War, something that Peter had talked about is the return of the Cold War energetically, and also the, as well as, the behavior, the revisiting of some of these concepts of, turning everyone to that type of belief system. And, here the sonic attacks, we've been seeing sonic attacks. I've had people recently tell me that they're feeling dizzy, lightheaded, and confused, or not necessarily confused, but, hard to focus. We also have talked many times of scalar and directed energy weapons, and here they talk about the microwave attacks. Is another incident, at least 6 dead, dozens injured in a spat shooting across America. Gunfire erupted in Houston, Philadelphia, Portland, Oregon, Sacramento, California, and Washington, D.C. The youngest victim was 6 years old. Multiple people were killed and dozens were injured in separate shootings across the United States Friday night and early Saturday, just days after President Joe Biden met with a group of law enforcement officials, community groups, and state and local leaders to address a nationwide surge in violent crime. The incidences in Houston, Philadelphia, Portland, Oregon, Sacramento, California, and Washington, D.C. come amid a year-long rise in nationwide gun violence. So they're, promoting the whole, talking about the issues with the guns and obviously the violence and the action that they want to take. I just want to bring up the incident that happened in South Africa. And they were in an effort to get everyone to take back their guns, and they almost did before the looting and everything happened. And I got that from an inside source. So, yeah, it's just something to note. And here is...
We are following breaking news out of the district. A 6-year-old...
I probably shouldn't get into that. Playing their information there. But 2 men were killed, 4 victims were hospitalized, and non-life-threatening injuries. Friday night, violence in the old Sacramento tourist district. I mean, it's, more of this type of activity happening, and here again, instilling fear. Right after there's a discussion between Joe and the police. So I think that's interesting. Here is a chemical leak at the Six Flags water park in Texas. Affects 65 people. The hazmat team responds. So in Harris County, officials shut down the Six Flags while the incident is investigated. What in the world is going on with places for children, for families to gather? I mean, they seem to be the brunt of all of this and the most vulnerable. There is an attack on families. There is an attack on the innocent, on children. At least 65 people underwent decontamination with hazmat team on Saturday following a chemical leak at Six Flags Hurricane Harbor Splashdown in Spring, Texas, according to local authorities. The chemicals involved are believed to be hypochlorite solution, 35% sulfuric acid, causing minor skin and inhalation irritation. according to the Harris County Fire Marshal official. The spring firefighters decontaminated 39 people at the scene who refused ambulance transport to local hospital. Another 26 people were transported to hospitals for further treatment. A total of 26 people have been transported from Six Flags Hurricane Harbor to area hospital. 39 refused. The exact cause of the incident is not known, but officials say the chemical leak was contained in one attraction at the park. The hazmat team and pollution control department from Harris County are assisting the spring fire department, according to Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo. So, this person said, Janelle Ludau, I just kept wondering why I was burning. These women and their kids say that they are at the kiddie pool when they started feeling a burning sensation and they had to be sprayed off by first responders. I believe this is the same article as well. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it looks like it's the same article. And this other one came from Fox News. And this one came from, let's see, this one's from Red Voice Media. They're saying 34 people are being decontaminated after mustard gas release at the water park, maybe. From their perspective, I'm not sure if this is accurate or not, but they're saying that the contaminants, here's comments here, mustard gas at water park, hazmat, fire department location, respiratory based, COM7, requesting priority traffic, MCI per CCEMS. It's just, it looks like a report. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but that's what they said, which means that there was another biological attack. Here's another article. This is another one. LifeSet. Texas terrorists, 60+ people were decontaminated, so they said there's more here experiencing respiratory issues. And that happened in Houston, Texas. They also have the same report. Here is it, I guess it's one of the PTA meetings that occurred, and it's a topic. Supposedly they were addressing the critical race theory amongst the parents, and the parents are listening, and then we're applauding, I think, promoting some of the things that they feel that have been unjust or ignored. And I think that the biggest issue here is it's getting down to this, is let them die, about parents fighting critical race theory. I mean, that's kind of a strong statement. If someone doesn't agree with you, so then you just want them to die, you want to kill them, you want to, I mean, we've become a very strange society that people can't, have their own expression or view, or at least I think people would be more compliable if they were treated with respect, or they felt like their children were safe. I mean, there's a real major attack against children, and there's a real push for, sexualizing children for God knows what purpose or what they intend to do. I know it seems like they want the parents to die. They want the children to be around and sexualized. They don't want the children to actually be focused on academia, but mostly just to learn how different sex acts at a very young age, and gender orientations and all sorts of things. And for any parent, this is highly disturbing, and it feels very threatening against the household, families, children. Children are innocent. The universe protects children. And it feels like it doesn't, but it does. If something happens to children, there are repercussions to those who have done anything to children, and I'm going to stand by that. And they've gotten away with a lot, as it seems, but I don't believe they're getting away with anything. And they're going to be very sorry that they had mistreated humanity in this way. And I'm talking about the astral beings that have clearly hijacked many humans, because I have a hard time believing that humans would behave this way. And the individuals that are fighting these causes, I mean, they really feel maybe they haven't had a voice, or they haven't a chance to talk, but they don't fully understand what they're being used for. And a lot of people are not realizing that this is a real attack on humanity, depopulation, and a destruction to the innocence of our youth. And a lot of the agendas coming from the UN, and the changing in what is being taught in the classrooms, people need to be aware. And I think most of the people that are listening are aware. But those of you who don't, do your homework. This is a greater issue, and we need to really ask the divine for protection against our children, because they are doing everything they can to intimidate parents, to push them away from their children, to give up, to go and die. I mean, whatever it is, get out of our way so we can have your children. And that's really disturbing. That's very, very disturbing, very violating. I'm going to change topics here. This is the drive. And it's an article where they said China's expansive far western regions are well suited to hosting facilities to support various kinds of military research and development and test and evaluation activities, as well as ostensibly civilian work that could also have military applications, especially in the air and space arenas. These areas of the country, which are also highly remote, help to keep all of these activities away from prying eyes. As such, they are practically littered with notable or otherwise curious infrastructures. So here we have this, massive hangar. And it's probably hard to see the scale of it. I believe that these are cars, if that means anything. And they do have vast, land mass in China, and are able to, all nations do. This is the problem. Everybody's building and doing things, whether it's space technology now, which seems to be accepted publicly, no longer just for governments to be doing space programs, but even corporations. So, and here we have large facilities, or private facilities for different things. It's military and space. They're showing that the hangar is approximately 1,150 feet long, 450 feet wide, extremely tall, as it is made clear in satellite images that there are ground vehicles and shadows present. An image of the site available through Apple Maps, the date of which is unclear, also notably shows what appears to be military vehicles with overall green paint jobs, as is commonly seen in trucks and other vehicles. So we're going to go to, there was a picture here, and you can see there the vehicle. Well, this was sort of an example. This is actually a comparison picture of an airship hangar in Lockheed Martin's Air Dock facility in Akron, Ohio. Note the use of mooring lines attached to the pickup trucks to move the airships seen here, called the High Altitude Long Endurance Demonstrators, which itself sits on a very small cradle. And here. So that's something for people to read up on and see what's going on. Who knows, maybe Google will probably kind of fade it out so you don't really notice it anymore. Here is, this is a Boeing Pegasus Arael refueling tank. Undergoes the test of hardening against the electromagnetic pulses. And you see it suspended above the aircraft, which is an EMP generator. This here is I believe this is in Germany, such as the fall term in Bremen, Germany. And you can see more of the airstrip and whatever there. It's an interesting article for people that are looking at these topics, technology, space, and military. The Euronews is a new article, is another article. World Health Organization calls for audit of Chinese labs where the CVD was first identified. And so I guess they're making it look like they're investigating. I'm really not sure if this is their intention or they're actually doing it, or they're just playing a role. But it's worth reading the article and looking into following up and seeing what happens next. This is July 17, 2021, by the way, so the article's current. Here's another topic. This is in the Corporate Watch news, and Prison Island, a new report on prison expansion in England, Wales, and Scotland. This August, Corporate Watch is releasing its new report on prison expansion in England, Wales, and Scotland. Prison Island. It shines light on one of the biggest prison building programs in generations. The Prison Estates Transformation Program that aims to create 10,000 new prison places by 2020 through the construction of 6 mega prisons, 5 new residential centers for women, detailed information about each of the proposed prisons in their locations, companies, buildings, and prisons, people behind the projects, new prisons being built by the Scottish Prison Service, including a potential prison for people of non-binary gender. The British government's attempts to build prisons abroad in Nigeria and Jamaica. The UK prison population has risen by 82% in the last 30 years. We are increasingly becoming a prison island where the state violence and imprisonment are used to maintain a divided society built on exploitation. England and Wales have the highest imprisonment rate in Western Europe, with Scotland the third most imprisoning country. This once-in-a-generation prison building program represents a significant expansion of repressive apparatus of the British state, entrenching the power of corporations in the criminal justice system even further. This report aims to document and contextualize this escalation in mass incarceration and provide information to support those fighting against it. What is going on? And what are they planning on doing now that they are expanding? They're expanding the prison system. Here's another article on this, or actually this is on TikTok. All right, so it says here they look like cells. Huge FEMA-built prison camps. This is what they're saying. Wellingsborough, UK. Prisons being finished here in the UK. Here is the inside. The rooms are prison rooms. One bed, one toilet. Look at the door. It has food open slot door. And so they're thinking that this is the reason. It's a facility. Not very good. The reason why I want people to be aware of everything that's going on. Remember, highest intention for humanity, people. I'm not saying this just for my benefit, but for everyone. And so sometimes my journey of exploration, reading through news, and working with clients, hearing, communicating, and then researching according to what I'm picking up, what I'm seeing, my intergalactic connection. And I stumbled on this. This is a really weird article. It just sounds like a wiki fantasy or fandom page of something called the Czechoslovakian government website. Now, I've seen these. I recently was drawn to this video where there are people claiming to be rulers of micronations, and they would kind of say, someone claimed that they were an owner or the ruler of a certain section of Antarctica, or one location or another. But for some reason, this bothered me, and it made me start to think about some other things. And let me explain. So here is what they're referring to as, and I was trying to kind of look at it and say, all right, what's the home page? It's called the Czechoslovakian Federation, and it's individual, republic, foreign relations, history, nation, government. There's prime minister. This, you know what I mean? It could sound like or it sounds like a real nation, or it's not. It has like some fictitious kind of names here. The nation of Sweden, the nation of Cakeland, which just sounds ridiculous. And so here's the history, and I don't know why I just started looking at this, and it called, let's see, the micronation called the Tribe. The Tribe broke into two micronations, Czechoslovakia, which is then the Emptied Federation, and the Nok clan. And the Emptied Federation was reformed into the kingdom called Rusland. And the kingdom prospered for a while until it was again reformed into a communist empire known as the Confederate Empire of Vasilis. Vasilis was a harsh communist nation. In the days of Vasilian rule are often looked upon down by modern Czechoslovakian, calling it the Dark Days. And during June of 2006, they have a date. Vasilis was reforming yet again into the Empire of Khaznia. The Khaznian Empire claimed much land but no little sovereignty, and was ever enforced in much of it. During the Khaznian Empire, Khaznia had boosted relations greatly with neighboring Zagoria, Chevaliers, and the Nok clan. During the time of the Khaznian Empire, Khaznia has expanded greatly into surrounding area, but had claimed colonies all over the UK. And that's when it caught my attention. I'm like, okay, so this is, you know, some kind of game site or something, but I don't see a game here. And then fantasy maybe, but then they bring up the UK. Now I was researching and trying to figure out after I've seen the prisons and some other oppressive things that are happening in the UK, and the kind of the rocky leadership issue with Prince Philip passing, the Queen not having much of a presence, no one really stepping up clearly as leadership. There were others. There was King John that was challenging the leadership, and then the separation of the brothers, Will and Harry. So, and then the severe lockdowns, more so than any other nation, and except for California maybe. But, you know, I was just trying to understand what was going on here. But then again, Harry's in California, isn't he? So, looking at this, and I was like, all right, so they also claimed territories in the Scottish Highlands, Cornwall, and New Forest during its claiming of the Northern Territories in the Scottish Highlands. Cosney established Fort Kosovberg to secure the area from hostile rebels who refused to join the empire. Cosney claimed a territory in the New Forest. No resistance was encountered, and was the situation with the Cornish colony. So there's no resistance. Here's my thought here. So just stay with me on this. Over the past, I don't know, maybe 5 years, maybe longer, probably longer, China has been coming over the United States and purchasing property, and just purchasing property, and more and more and more coastal property. The Rose Wharf in Boston was purchased by China. Chinese corporations, however, whether it's government corporations, you know, it doesn't matter, but it was, you know, kind of claiming rulership, and which is, you know, a port, and, you know, they're pretty much owning large masses of land. And so is it possible for another nation to come in, purchase land, and keep purchasing land, and maybe create what is called an autonomous zone? Sound familiar? So and we talked a lot about autonomous zones, and, you know, especially what was happening in Seattle and Portland, and essentially, if large plots of land are purchased from, you know, someone who is a resident corporation or whatever from another nation, and then they continue doing that, eventually the land is owned by someone else who doesn't necessarily have to follow all the rules of the governing officials, because it depends on how it's set up. But is this possible? I think it's possible. Could this explain something like this? And I could be wrong, but what if I'm right? So that's why I'm talking about it, and maybe others might have something more solid to talk about. But, you know, I do follow my feelings, and my gut instinct is that there's something else going on here. When I see a nation that becomes insensitive to their own people, it makes me think that they are not of the same people. They're from possibly being led and controlled by others that are indifferent. That could be why the one world order is, you know, one world, one nation, but essentially only really caring mostly about their own little circle of friends, or those that they have interest in and those that can benefit them, and the rest become, I don't know, collateral, extras, hungry mouths, worthless eaters. I don't know, however it's perceived, and that's why something like that's very dangerous. And in this case, I was thinking that this is written for some reason, and whether it's fantasy or something that has, they're trying to show me that something like this has happened. And so, as I said, it maybe someone can gather some insight. But yeah, I mean, I know that there's the EU and there's that leadership there over the European nations, which is creating that insensitivity toward those that are not affiliated with them directly. And it's a perfect example, and then wanting to expand on that to other nations or around the world, dictating to how everyone should live and what they should conform to and whether or not they have value. So here again, highest intention for humanity. Let's people just, you know, if you have any information on this or anything that's similar to this, I know in the U.S. that there is a desire to change and control everything that already has, because we have seen leadership being brought in without the proper methods that we have in the past, whether it's voting or elections, and something where it felt like the people had a bit of a voice, and it's not really happening anymore. So that part has to change as well. And, you know, just a reminder of my thoughts and feelings on that topic. Here I thought it was interesting too. U.S. wants to build a spy base in the UK to help keep satellites safe. So maybe there's, you know, here, this is the Sky News. U.S. Space Force officers said this. The concept is to build 3 radar bases around the globe, including one potentially in Scotland or southern England. The United States is looking to build a spy base in the UK to probe deep space and spot any attempt by states such as Russia or China to attack vital satellites orbiting the Earth, using radar technology that can identify an object the size of a football up to 22,000 miles, 36,000 kilometers away. The sprawling facility would also be able to scan for less sinister but just as damaging pieces of space debris that can also break satellites if they collide. It sounds like they're, you know, trying to assist. I hope that's what their intention is. I don't know why the UK doesn't have the facility or ability to do this, but I think that we've worked together as allies in the past. So something to look into here. There's 2 other sites to be set in Texas and Australia. And we already know the presence of the ACIO in Australia, and I think that there are plenty of ability to, I don't know, maybe it's, I don't really know here. This one right here, just, I think that there are good intentions, but maybe there's something else behind it as well. But on the other hand, I think this is actually a need. It's definitely a need, and a need to protect, especially with all sorts of things flying around out there. It's probably important to have something monitoring our skies at this point. We know that it's been littered with satellites. CBS and CNBC News has an article here, investing in space. FAA warns SpaceX that massive Starship launch tower in Texas is unapproved. So this is the second time I've seen an article of something that SpaceX has done, and the other one was in Germany, where they were building a facility, and apparently they didn't have the correct documents to do some of the things that they were doing. and permission to do so. And here they're saying that, it doesn't comply. It's unapproved. SpaceX Aviation Administration warned Elon Musk SpaceX in a letter 2 months ago that the company's work on a launch tower for future Starship rocket launches is yet unapproved and will be included in the agency's ongoing environmental review of the facility in Boca Chica, Texas. I mean, he has launched quite a few vehicles into space, and quite a few have exploded, and it's very dangerous to people. So I'm glad that they're finally doing something about that. I know that when he went to Texas, it wasn't going to be easy it was in California. But he's also selling all of his properties, so going underground or going off into space, guess we'll find out. I thought this was interesting, and I know, not to detract from what's happening here in South Africa, but in the Andronicus transmissions, very, very far back in time, Andronicus discusses communication with someone by the name of Gupta, and how, he starts off like he is mentor to Andronicus. And I do have my book, The Andronicus Transmissions, Contact Andromeda. And those of you that have the book and read it through, you'll know what I'm talking about. Many that have listened to the show that I talked about, and I started doing the transmissions in 2015, and I have them on the Andronetalks radio right now. If people wanted to listen, but I have it all dated. That these discussions about Gupta, and let's get back to who Gupta was. Gupta was someone that was part of the system of Vega, and who was entrusted to assist many of the races in space to come together and interact with one another. And he was guiding the Andromedans. And at some point he went rogue. And they said he went into the future, into a humanity in reality, and was going against the system, and pretty much doing whatever he felt like he wanted to do. And there you have it. So we see this crisis that's coming up, and here's the name, the Guptas, and very likely connected to Gupta himself. Maybe he created a lineage or something here. And from what I heard, that they're a billionaire family. South Africa's President Jacob Zuma has been accused of having corrupt relationship with the members of the Indian-born Gupta family, and even letting them interfere in ministerial appointments. They're very if they're like Gupta, they're very manipulative. And when all the problems broke out and Zuma was arrested, I believe they left the country and were not affected. Although Mr. Zuma Gupta is denying any wrongdoing, these allegations are one of the main reasons people want him to resign. So who are the Guptas, and how close are their links to President Zuma? Brothers AJ, Atul, Rajesh, also known as Tony Gupta, all in their 40s, relocated to South Africa from India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh in Saharanpur in 1993, just as a white minority rule was ending and the country was opening up to the rest of the world. Family spokesman Haranath Ghosh told the BBC by email that their father, Shiv Kumar Gupta, sent Atul to South Africa believing that Africa was about to become the America of the world's land of opportunity. It is said that when Atul arrived in what was then Africa's largest economy, he set up the family business Sahara Computers. He was amazed at the lack of red tape compared to India. They were small businessmen back home, but their parent company, Sahara Group, which has no links to the Indian giant of the same name, now has an annual turnover of about 200 million rand, or anyhow, the employees of about 10,000 people, as well as computers. They have interest in mining, air travel, energy, technology, and media. Atul says that they met President Zuma more than 10 years ago when he was a guest on one of the Sahara's annual functions. So they see the Gupta controlled JIC mining services. As a communication officer, the family reportedly paid her 3.8 million rand. Pretoria mansion, they have denied this. Yeah, so anyhow, not surprised, and probably more information is going to come up about this. So we'll leave that article, and that's for the followers of the Andronetalks transmissions, as Andronetalks proves to have informed us as he did. Okay, so this is from the Daily Mail. And a little problem here. I can't quite find the article I was looking for. All right, we'll have to get rid of this one. Here is something update about Bitcoin. Ukraine's largest illegal mining facility may have been a FIFA bot farm. A data center busted by Ukrainian law enforcement this month for suspected electricity theft may have had a purpose different from mining cryptocurrencies. Ukraine's security service described the facility as the largest underground crypto farm found to date, but media reports are challenging that assertion. Earlier in July, the Security Service of the Ukraine announced it uncovered a crypto mining farm that is powered with stolen energy in the city of Vinnytsia. Officers seized around 5,000 units of hardware, including 3,800 gaming consoles, 500 video cards from a former warehouse at Vinnytsia Blanero, and the local electric utility allegedly suffered losses of up to 256,000. The illegal mining facility, the law enforcement agency said, was operated by residents of Vinnytsia and the capital Kyiv, according to an article by AIN.ua. The confiscated equipment belongs to a company called the MMI Engineering, which is engaged in software development, network maintenance, and AI training. Its lawyers contacted the news outlet and accused the SBU of spreading false information. This is the MMI engineering facility. The IT firm claims it buys its electricity from JSC in the area's grid operator, Enera Vinnytsia Limited, paying its bills at a commercial rate in accordance with the meter readings. So the suspected crypto mining farm turns out to be minting in-game currency, and the Ukrainian entity, which is owned by the Zafar Technology, did not provide any details regarding the specific use of the computer equipment. PlayStation 4 Slims, gaming consoles, and discs have been spotted in the photograph released by the SBU on June 8th. And although it's generally possible to mine cryptos with them, many in Ukraine believe it's more likely the consoles have been used for gaming-related applications. So anyhow, who really knows? We know there's a lot of things going on, and there have been a lot of mining facilities, some legal, some illegal. But for those of you that do have crypto, just a bit of an update. Here's another one. PC Gamer. Oh good, someone's opening a nuclear-powered crypto mining facility. And looks like it's a nuclear power plant. A report from Data Center of Dynamics says that Talon Energy, a U.S. power company, plans on building 300 milliwatts of crypto mining facility and data center next to its nuclear Susquehanna steam electric station in Pennsylvania. The business responsible for the crypto mining operation, Cumulus Coin, is a subsidiary of Talon Energy and expects the project to come online in the spring of 2022, with the first phase of development having 164 megawatts of capacity. The goal is to have at least 300 megawatts of on-site power by completion and the ability to expand to 1 gigawatt capacity in the future. Just to give you an idea of how lucrative these crypto mining operations are, the Albany Engineering Company in New York said that they are making money mining cryptocurrency at least nearly 200-year-old hydroelectric power plant than providing power to customers on its entire energy grid. It's another interesting article for you to read. I don't want to read the whole thing. Some people are not interested as in depth, but that's why we provide links to these articles so you can read further. Here is CNBC again. World Economic Forum cancels in 2021. Meeting planned for Singapore. The World Economic Forum said on Monday that it's canceled a summer version of its annual meeting that was due to take place in Singapore. Regretfully, the tragic circumstances unfolding across geographies, an uncertain travel outlook, differing speeds of vaccination rollout, and the uncertainty around new variants combine to make it impossible to release a global meeting with business, government, and civil society leadings from all over the world on the scale which was planned, the organization said in a statement. The event, which brings together politicians and business leaders from around the world, had already been rescheduled twice and has been moved to Singapore from its usual location of Davos, Switzerland. The summer event has been planned for the middle of August. WEF said that the World Economic Forum, the meeting will instead take place in the first half of 2022, with final location date to be determined later this year. Klaus Schwab, the founder and executive chairman of WEF, called it a difficult decision. Ultimately, the health and safety of everyone concerned is our highest priority, he said in this statement. So this is where all the planning is going on. And then, of course, they have some other information. Interesting. The two major events to be held in Singapore will be continued as planned, organizers told the CNBC. The Shangri-La Dialogue, an annual security summit, it's interesting, that's what they call it, scheduled for June 4th and 5th, will go ahead as planned. Okay, more on Klaus Schwab. Let's turn our attention to the news. Now it's Jeff Bezos' turn to make history with the flight into space. If successful, Blue Origin's launch on Tuesday will be the first suborbital flight from the civilian crew. This came out in July 18, 2021. Just over a week after Richard Branson flew to the edge of space, fellow billionaire Jeff Bezos is set for a similar high-stakes trip aboard his own rocket. Bezos will attempt to fly to space on Tuesday, July 20th, launching aboard a rocket and capsule developed by Blue Origin, the Amazon founder's private space company. It will be the first crewed launch for Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket. If successful, Bezos will make history for taking part in the first unpiloted suborbital flight with a civilian crew. Several other milestones may be set on the trip. Joining Bezos will be one passenger who stands to become the oldest person to reach space, another one who would be the youngest. Wally Funk, 82, is the former test pilot who was one of the Mercury 13 women who underwent training in 1960s to demonstrate that women can meet NASA's standards for astronaut corps. At the age of 18, the Dutch teenager Oliver Damon could become the youngest astronaut, rounding out the four-person crew and Bezos' brother Mark. And then it goes on to say the dreams for them to go into space. And more about that information. We'll have that link available. But I thought it was also interesting in the Greek Reporter, July 5th, 2021, Jeff Bezos dines with Tom Hanks, Anderson Cooper in Greek PM on Antiparos. And there they are cruising, and the agent aboard a luxurious yacht had dinner on the Antiparos Island on Sunday with Tom Hanks, Anderson Cooper, and Greek PM Kyriakos Mitsotakis. The dinner was hosted by billionaire businessman Barry Diller and his wife, fashion designer Diane von Furstenberg. And so we know all the friends. It's Diane von Furstenberg there. So, all right, and for the last article of the day, coming from the Drive, here is the Navy's exotic M80 Stiletto test ship defeated drone swarms at sea during trials. It's a new vehicle. It's supposed to take down drones. The U.S. Navy's exotic M80 Stiletto experimental testbed ship has successfully completed a 6-week demonstration of an automated 360-degree detect and defeat anti-drone system. The demonstration saw the M80 go up against drone swarms in what has been described as a wide range of unmanned robotic threats. The combination of the Navy's one-of-a-kind littoral vessel and its automated anti-drone system highlights the increasingly significant threat that lower-end unmanned systems pose to naval operations, and may point to those systems becoming more common aboard surface ships. The anti-drone system tested aboard the Stiletto was the Drone Sentry X, manufactured by Australia-based defense contractor Drone Shield. In their July 2021 newsletter, Drone Shield claims the system tested aboard the Stiletto demonstrated overall detection capability, detection and defeat ranges, on-the-move operations in various sea states, and effectiveness against the drone swarms involving a wide range of unmanned robotic threats. The exact nature of the swarms in which the test is unknown, meaning it's not clear if an actual networked autonomous drone swarm was the threat in question or if the tests were conducted against multiple drones simultaneously. So, create a problem, solve a problem. It's ongoing. They keep on creating new systems for attack, new systems for defense, and unable to take care of the basic things that people need on a day-to-day basis because they're too fascinated with this tension and war. But at the same time, being pushed into that situation is something interesting. Drone Shield also writes in their July newsletter that the latest successful U.S. Navy demonstrations validates other recent drone sentry evaluations conducted by the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and various law enforcement agencies. The contractor makes a wide variety of sophisticated anti-drone products, including the sci-fi-looking rifle-style jammers seen deployed by the Belgian Federal Police at a meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden and King Philip of Belgium last month. Okay, so well, that's it for today, and thank you all for listening. Thank you for your support, and we have much more going to be available for you. We have some new websites, new systems of information, and hopefully soon Peter will be able to join us. He's off on missions and working very hard to assist in other realities, other existences, and so forth. But he is, there in defense and protection. So, and I will keep you updated with everything else that's going on. Everyone, thank you, and have a good day.
You have been listening to Andronetalks Radio. Join us on YouTube channel Jessica Arael Morocco and visit her website at www.readingsbyarael.com.